Jordan Mills stretched his tired arms as he looked out the window of his office on the 5th floor of Westside Medical Center. The morning sun cast long shadows across the parking lot, which was already filling up with the cars of early shift nurses and doctors. After 15 years as the hospital manager, Jordan could feel the rhythm of the building like it was part of his own body. He sipped his coffee and reviewed the budget reports that had kept him up most of the night. The numbers weren't looking good, and they hadn't been for a while. The hospital's aging infrastructure needed updates they couldn't afford. Insurance reimbursements were down, and 3 specialized doctors had left for better-paying positions at the shiny new medical center across town. A knock at his door broke his concentration. "Come in," Jordan called, setting down his coffee mug emblazoned with "World's Okayest Hospital Manager," a joke gift from the nursing staff 3 Christmases ago. Diane from Human Resources poked her head in. Her usually neat bun was slightly disheveled, a sure sign she'd been working since before dawn. "Morning, Jordan. The board's requesting all department heads for a meeting at noon. Sounds important?" Jordan nodded, trying not to show his concern. Surprise board meetings were never good news. "Any hint about what it's about?" Diane shrugged, but her eyes gave away that she knew more than she could say. "Just be there." Conference room A. After she left, Jordan turned back to the window. Westside Medical Center had been his life's work. He'd started as an administrative assistant right out of college and worked his way up. He knew every squeaky door, every temperamental vending machine, and most importantly, every staff member by name. This wasn't just a job. It was his community. The morning flew by in a blur of paperwork, staff meetings, and putting out the usual fires that came with running a hospital. A pipe had burst in the East Wing bathroom. The new MRI technician needed additional training. The cafeteria had somehow ordered 3 times the usual amount of pudding cups. By the time noon approached, Jordan had nearly forgotten about the board meeting. He arrived at conference room A slightly out of breath, straightening his tie as he entered. The long oval table was already filled with familiar faces: department heads, senior doctors, and administrative staff. At the head of the table sat Chester Wilson, the board chairman, looking unusually grim in his perfectly pressed suit. "Now that we're all here," Chester began once Jordan took his seat, "I'll get straight to the point. As you all know, Westside has been facing financial challenges for some time now." A heavy silence fell over the room. Everyone knew about the budget issues, but hearing it stated so plainly by the chairman made it more real. "After exploring all options, the board has made a decision," Chester continued, his voice steady but strained. "Westside Medical Center has been acquired by a private investment group." The room erupted in murmurs and gasps. Jordan felt his stomach drop. "What does this mean for our staff?" Dr. Reynolds, the chief of surgery, asked immediately. "And our patients?" added Nurse Lopez from pediatrics. Chester raised his hands to quiet everyone. "The new ownership has assured us they have no plans for mass layoffs or radical changes to patient care. Their primary interest is in modernizing our facilities and operations to make us financially viable again." Jordan found his voice. "Who exactly are these investors? Do they have experience in healthcare?" Chester exchanged a look with the hospital's legal counsel before answering. "The investment group is led by several individuals with diverse business backgrounds. I'm not at liberty to disclose all the names yet, but I can tell you that one of the principal investors is someone with significant experience in technological innovation and infrastructure development." Jordan didn't like the vague answer, but before he could press further, Chester continued. "Representatives from the new ownership will be touring the facility in the coming weeks. I expect everyone to be cooperative and professional. This is our reality now, and we need to make the best of it." The meeting continued with discussions about transition protocols and assurances that day-to-day operations would continue as normal for now. Throughout it all, Jordan sat in a daze, his mind racing with questions and concerns. After the meeting, he caught up with Chester in the hallway. "Chester, level with me. How bad is it really? Are we talking about Westside becoming some corporate medical mill?" The older man sighed, the wrinkles around his eyes deepening. "Jordan, I fought this as long as I could. But we were 3 months away from closing doors. This was the only viable option. But who are these people? I need to know who I'm working for." Chester glanced around to make sure they were alone. "Look, I signed NDAs, but I can tell you this isn't just another healthcare conglomerate looking to cut costs and maximize profits. The lead investor specifically chose Westside because of its community importance. They want to use it as a test case for new healthcare delivery models. That sounds like corporate speak for guinea pig, Jordan muttered. Just keep an open mind, Chester said, patting him on the shoulder, and be ready. They could show up any time in the next few weeks for initial tours and assessments. The rest of the day passed in a fog. Jordan went through the motions of his job while his mind kept returning to the morning's news. He stayed late, walking the quiet evening halls of his hospital, wondering what it would look like in 6 months or a year. Would the community clinic that served low-income patients survive the acquisition? What about the specialized care programs that didn't turn a profit, but were vital to patients? Jordan had built many of these services himself, fighting for every dollar in the budget to make them happen. As he passed the pediatric ward, he paused to watch through the window as a night nurse read a story to a small child who couldn't sleep. This was what Westside was about, people caring for people. He couldn't bear the thought of losing that. Over the next few days, rumors spread through the hospital like wildfire. Some said a famous tech billionaire was behind the acquisition. Others claimed it was a foreign investment group. A few even suggested it was a cover for converting part of the hospital into luxury condos. Jordan did his best to calm the speculation while dealing with his own anxiety. He instructed all department heads to prepare reports on their essential services and staffing needs. If the new owners wanted to make changes, they'd have to understand exactly what was at stake. He also doubled down on his long-standing policy of keeping the hospital a politically neutral zone. With tensions already high, the last thing they needed was political disagreements adding fuel to the fire. Jordan had always believed that healthcare should transcend partisan divides. In his hospital, patient care came before politics every time. No political discussions in patient areas. No campaign materials, no politically charged symbols. He reminded staff at a hospital-wide meeting. Our patients come from all walks of life and all political beliefs. When they're here, they deserve to focus on healing, not on debates. Most of the staff appreciated the policy. Westside served a diverse community, and maintaining a neutral environment had helped them build trust with patients from all backgrounds. A week after the acquisition announcement, Jordan was reviewing applications for a new radiology technician when his phone rang. "Mr. Mills," his assistant said, "I just got word from Mr. Wilson. The new ownership team is planning to visit tomorrow morning for an initial walkthrough." Jordan sat up straight. "Tomorrow? That's sooner than expected. Do we have names? How many people are coming?" "No names yet. Just that it will be a small group, likely 3 or 4 people. They want to see the facility operating normally, so no special preparations." After hanging up, Jordan sent a quick email to all department heads, alerting them to the visit. He spent the evening reviewing his notes on the hospital's most pressing needs and practicing his pitch for preserving the community services he had fought so hard to create. That night, he barely slept. By 5:30 a.m., he was already at the hospital, making sure everything was running as smoothly as possible. He checked in with the night shift staff, straightened the visitor brochures in the lobby, and even adjusted a crooked painting in the main hallway. As the morning shift arrived, he reminded everyone about the visit, but encouraged them to go about their work as usual. "Just show them what makes Westside special," he told a group of nurses. "The care and dedication you bring every day." By 9 a.m., Jordan was stationed near the main entrance reviewing patient satisfaction surveys to keep his mind occupied while he waited. The hospital hummed with its usual morning activity, doctors making rounds, visitors arriving with flowers and cards, the cafeteria serving its famously mediocre breakfast. Jordan had no idea that in just a few hours, his world would be turned upside down by a man in a red hat. Jordan checked his watch for the 5th time in 10 minutes. It was already past 10 o'clock and there was still no sign of the investors. He had expected them to be punctual. Wealthy business types usually were. "Maybe they're not coming today after all," his assistant Patty suggested, noticing his restlessness. "Chester confirmed it last night," Jordan replied, tapping his pen against the clipboard in his hand. They could just be stuck in traffic. As if on cue, the sliding glass doors at the entrance swished open. Jordan straightened his tie and put on his best professional smile, only to let it fade when he saw it was just Mrs. Hernandez coming in for her weekly blood pressure check. "Good morning, Mrs. Hernandez," he called out. receiving a cheerful wave in return. Just as Jordan was considering returning to his office to catch up on paperwork, the doors opened again. This time 3 people walked in, 2 in dark business suits and 1 in the middle wearing jeans. A black t-shirt and most noticeably a bright red cap with white letters spelling out, "Make America Great Again." Jordan's heart sank. Of all days for a political statement to walk through his doors, it had to be today. He watched as the trio paused in the lobby, looking around with interest. The man in the MAGA hat was tall, with dark sunglasses hiding much of his face. Something about him seemed vaguely familiar, but Jordan couldn't place it. "Are those the investors?" Patty whispered beside him. "I don't know," Jordan replied honestly. They didn't look like a typical investment team, especially the casually dressed man in the middle. But they definitely carried themselves with the confidence of people who owned the place. Before Jordan could approach them, the group moved toward the information desk where Bonnie, the volunteer greeter, was stationed. Jordan inched closer, trying to overhear their conversation. "Good morning," the man in the hat said to Bonnie. "We'd like to take a look around, if that's all right." Bonnie, a retired nurse who had been volunteering at Westside for over a decade, blinked in surprise. "Are you here to see a patient? Or for an appointment?" One of the suited individuals, a woman with sharp eyes and a tablet in her hand, stepped forward. "We're here for a facility assessment. I believe the board chairman should have notified administration." Jordan recognized his cue and stepped forward. "I'm Jordan Mills, hospital manager. You must be the representatives from the investment group." The woman nodded briskly. "Yes, I'm Linda Chen, operations specialist. This is Robert Patel, our healthcare facilities expert, and just call me Elon." The man in the hat cut in, extending his hand to Jordan. "I like to see how things run firsthand." Jordan's brain froze as he automatically shook the offered hand. "Elon, as in Elon Musk? The tech billionaire?" His eyes darted to the man's partially obscured face, trying to match it with images he'd seen in the news. "It's a pleasure to meet you all," Jordan managed, recovering his professional demeanor. "I'd be happy to give you a tour of our facility." "Actually," Linda said, checking something on her tablet, "we were hoping to observe normal operations without too much interference. Perhaps you could point us toward key departments and we can walk through on our own first?" "We'll have questions later." Jordan hesitated. Letting investors wander freely through the hospital wasn't ideal, especially when one of them was wearing political attire that might upset patients or staff. But these people now owned the building he was standing in. "Of course," he said finally. "I can show you where each department is located. But I should mention our policy about political displays in patient areas. Let's start with the emergency department," Linda interrupted, either not hearing or choosing to ignore his comment about the policy. "Then we'd like to see the surgical suites, ICU, and perhaps the pediatric ward." For the next 20 minutes, Jordan led the trio through the main hallways of Westside Medical Center, pointing out departments and briefly explaining the function of each. All the while, he was acutely aware of the red hat bobbing along beside him. Several staff members did double takes as they passed, and Jordan could already see whispered conversations breaking out in their wake. When they reached the pediatric ward, Jordan tried again. "Mr. Musk, I should mention that we have a strict policy about political symbols in patient care areas. Many of our patients come from diverse backgrounds, and we try to maintain a neutral environment for everyone's comfort." Elon turned toward him, his expression unreadable behind the sunglasses. "Interesting policy. Does that apply to all political expressions?" "Yes, absolutely," Jordan affirmed. "No campaign materials, political slogans, or symbols from either side. We've found it helps keep the focus on healing." Was all Elon said before turning to Linda. "Let's see the pediatric ward now." Frustration bubbled in Jordan's chest, but he maintained his professional smile as he led them through the double doors into the colorful hallway of the children's wing. Nurse Lopez was at the nurse's station and looked up as they entered. Her eyes widened at the sight of the hat, then narrowed as she caught Jordan's gaze. "This is our pediatric ward," Jordan explained, pushing forward. "We serve children from newborn to 18 years old here. We're particularly proud of our Child Life program that helps kids cope with their hospital experience through play and education." As they walked past the playroom, a young girl sitting in a wheelchair spotted the group and pointed excitedly. "Look, Mommy, a red hat." Her mother, who was sitting beside her, looked up and frowned slightly upon seeing the political message. She whispered something to her daughter and wheeled her away in the opposite direction. Jordan felt his jaw tighten. This was exactly what he'd been concerned about. Several staff members were now watching the group with undisguised curiosity and, in some cases, disapproval. Dr. Reynolds from surgery passed by, did a visible double-take at Elon's hat, and shot Jordan a questioning look. Mr. Musk, Jordan tried again, lowering his voice. I really must insist on our policy regarding political displays. We've already seen patients reacting. Are you saying my hat is disruptive? Elon asked, his voice carrying more than Jordan would have liked. I'm saying any political symbol can be in this environment. Yes, Jordan replied firmly. It's just a hat, Elon said with a slight smile. I'm not campaigning. By now they had attracted the attention of everyone in the vicinity. A small crowd of nurses and technicians had gathered at the nearby station, watching the exchange with interest. Jordan could feel the situation slipping out of his control. Perhaps we should continue to the next area, Linda suggested, clearly sensing the tension. In a moment, Elon said, turning back to Jordan. So let me understand this policy. No one in this hospital is allowed to wear anything that might be considered political? What about a pride pin? Or a religious symbol? Where exactly is the line drawn? Jordan took a deep breath. We ask that staff refrain from displaying overtly political messages in patient care areas. Personal religious symbols are permitted as part of religious expression. Our goal is to ensure all patients feel welcome and comfortable, regardless of their political beliefs. And you think my hat makes people uncomfortable? Elon pressed. Yes, I do, Jordan said, deciding honesty was the best approach, just as a hat with any other political slogan might. This isn't about the specific message, it's about keeping politics out of patient care. Elon studied him for a long moment. The hallway had grown uncomfortably quiet. Even the usual beeps and hums of medical equipment seemed muted, as if the hospital itself was holding its breath. Interesting, Elon said finally. Then, instead of removing the hat as Jordan had hoped, he turned to Linda and Robert. Let's see the emergency department next. As they walked away, Jordan stood rooted to the spot, torn between following them and maintaining his authority. He had just challenged one of the richest men in the world, a man who now owned the hospital, over a hat. Was this the hill he wanted to die on professionally? Yes, he decided. This was about more than a hat. This was about the culture he had built at Westside, where patient comfort came before everything else. Jordan caught up with the group as they were entering the emergency department. The busy area was in its usual state of controlled chaos. Nurses moving quickly between curtained beds, doctors calling out orders, the occasional moan or cry from patients in pain. As they stood observing the activity, a young nurse approached Jordan, clearly uncomfortable. Mr. Mills, could I speak with you for a moment? She asked, glancing nervously at the visitors. Jordan stepped aside with her. What is it, Amy? We have a patient in bed 3 who's very upset about the man in the red hat, she whispered. She's asking if she can be moved to another area. She says the hat is triggering her anxiety. Jordan closed his eyes briefly. This was exactly what he had feared. Tell her we'll address it right away. He returned to the group, his decision made. Mr. Musk, I'm going to have to ask you to either remove the hat or continue this tour another day. We have a patient who is experiencing distress specifically because of it. Elon turned to face him fully. Are you asking me to leave? I'm asking you to respect our policies and our patients, Jordan replied steadily. If that means removing the hat, great. If not, then yes, I'm asking you to leave the patient care areas. Linda and Robert exchanged alarmed glances. Linda stepped forward. Mr. Mills, perhaps we should discuss this privately. There's nothing to discuss, Jordan said firmly. This isn't about politics or personal opinions. It's about patient care, which is our priority here. A tense silence stretched between them. Several staff members had stopped what they were doing to watch, though they pretended to be occupied with charts and equipment. Finally, Elon spoke. You know who I am, correct? Yes, Jordan admitted. And I respect your accomplishments greatly. But in this hospital, you're a visitor like anyone else, and we have policies that everyone follows. Including the owner? Elon asked, a slight edge to his voice. Jordan swallowed hard but stood his ground. Especially the owner, who should set an example for the staff. For what seemed like an eternity, no one moved. Then, without another word, Elon turned and walked toward the exit, Linda and Robert, looking stunned, hurried after him. Jordan watched them go, his heart pounding in his chest. Had he just thrown away his career over a hat? As the sliding doors closed behind the trio, the emergency department erupted in whispers. Jordan felt a hand on his shoulder and turned to see Dr. Reynolds. That, the surgeon said quietly, was either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever seen you do. Jordan could only nod. I guess we'll find out which one it was soon enough. The emergency department returned to its normal rhythm within minutes, but Jordan felt anything but normal as he walked back to his office. His phone had already buzzed 3 times in his pocket. No doubt Chester trying to reach him after hearing what had happened. Jordan closed his office door, something he rarely did, and sat heavily in his chair. His hands were shaking slightly as the adrenaline ebbed away. Had he really just kicked Elon Musk, one of the richest men in the world and apparently the new owner of Westside Medical Center, out of his own hospital? He pulled out his phone and winced at the messages. One from Chester, "Call me immediately." One from Diane in HR, "What's happening? Everyone's saying you threw out the new owner?" And one from Dr. Reynolds, "Whatever happens, you did the right thing. We're with you." That last message brought a small smile to Jordan's face despite everything. He'd spent 15 years building relationships and trust with the staff at Westside. Even if this turned out to be his last day as hospital manager, at least he'd stood up for the values they all believed in. He was about to call Chester when there was a soft knock at his door. "Come in," he called, bracing himself. Nurse Lopez poked her head in. "Got a minute? Everyone in pediatrics is talking about what happened." "I'm sure they are," Jordan sighed. "Come in, close the door." She slipped inside and took a seat across from his desk. "So you really did it? You kicked him out over the hat?" "I asked him to either remove the hat or leave patient areas," Jordan clarified. "He chose to leave." "Bold move," she said, looking impressed. "But are you worried about your job?" Jordan ran a hand through his hair. "Honestly, yes, but what was I supposed to do? We've had that policy for years." "It's not just about this particular hat or political view. We've asked staff to remove buttons and stickers from both sides of the aisle before. I couldn't make an exception just because he's rich and powerful. For what it's worth, the staff is behind you," Nurse Lopez said, "even the ones who might agree with his politics." Nobody likes a double standard. Jordan's phone rang, Chester's name flashing on the screen. "I better take this," he said. Nurse Lopez nodded and stood. "Good luck. We're all pulling for you." After she left, Jordan took a deep breath and answered the phone. "Chester, I can explain." "My office now." Chester's voice was tight with stress. "The board is assembling for an emergency meeting in 30 minutes. The line went dead before Jordan could respond. The walk to the administrative wing felt like the longest of Jordan's life. Staff members he passed gave him encouraging smiles or thumbs up. Word had clearly spread throughout the hospital. By the time he reached Chester's office, it felt like he was walking to his own execution. Chester was pacing behind his desk when Jordan entered. The older man looked like he'd aged 5 years in the past hour. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Chester demanded without preamble. "I enforced our existing policy," Jordan replied calmly. "The same one we've had for years. This isn't some random visitor wearing a campaign button," Chester exploded. "This is Elon Musk, the man who just saved this hospital from bankruptcy." "I know who he is," Jordan said. "But our policy doesn't have an exemption for billionaires." A patient was distressed by the political message. I asked him to remove it. He refused. Chester collapsed into his chair. "He's furious. His assistant called me the moment they left the building. The board is in panic mode." "I'm sorry this has created problems for you and the board," Jordan said sincerely. "But I'm not sorry for what I did. We can't say patient comfort is our priority, then ignore it when it's inconvenient." Chester studied him for a long moment. "You know you're probably going to lose your job over this." "I know," Jordan nodded. "But some things are worth standing up for." A knock at the door interrupted them. Chester's assistant poked her head in. "They're ready for you in the boardroom," she said, her expression sympathetic as she glanced at Jordan. The boardroom was packed when they arrived. All 12 board members sat around the large oval table, their faces grim. At the far end of the table, to Jordan's surprise, sat Linda Chen, the operations specialist who had accompanied Elon during the visit. Chester took his seat at the head of the table, while Jordan remained standing near the door. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," Chester began. As you've likely heard, there was an incident earlier today during the new ownership team's visit. I've asked Ms. Chen to join us to represent Mr. Musk's interests in this discussion. Linda nodded coolly. Mr. Musk sends his regrets that he couldn't be here himself. He had to return to his other businesses. Of course he did, Jordan thought. The man ran multiple billion-dollar companies. He probably considered this whole situation too trivial to deal with personally. Mr. Mills, one of the board members, spoke up. Perhaps you could explain to us exactly what happened. Jordan took a deep breath and recounted the morning's events as objectively as possible. The tour, his initial request about the hat, the patient's distress, and his final request that led to Elon leaving. When he finished, the room was silent for a moment. While I understand Mr. Mills was following hospital policy, Linda finally said, Mr. Musk was quite surprised by the confrontational approach, especially in front of staff and patients. It created an unnecessarily embarrassing situation. I attempted to address it privately first, Jordan countered. Mr. Musk chose not to respond to that more discreet request. Regardless, Linda continued as if he hadn't spoken, Mr. Musk feels this incident raises questions about the management culture at Westside. He wonders if perhaps there's too much rigidity and not enough adaptability. Several board members exchanged uncomfortable glances. Jordan felt his throat tighten. This was it. They were laying the groundwork for his dismissal. What exactly is Mr. Musk proposing? Chester asked carefully. Linda opened her tablet. He believes this might be an opportunity for fresh leadership at Westside. Someone who can help guide the hospital through the coming changes with flexibility and innovation. And there it was. Jordan had known it was coming, but hearing it stated so clinically still stung. If I may, Jordan said, keeping his voice steady. I've dedicated 15 years to this hospital. In that time, we've developed policies that put patient comfort and care above all else. Yes, I enforced that policy even when it was difficult. That's not rigidity, that's integrity. Noble sentiments, Linda said with a thin smile, but perhaps outdated in today's healthcare landscape. Before Jordan could respond, the boardroom door swung open. Everyone turned to see Nurse Lopez standing there, slightly out of breath. I'm sorry to interrupt, she said, but I thought you should see this. She held up her phone, showing a social media page. It's spreading all over the internet. Chester gestured her forward. What is? Nurse Lopez placed her phone on the table where everyone could see it. On the screen was a Twitter feed filled with posts about Westside Medical Center. Jordan leaned closer and began to read some of them. Proud of Westside Hospital for standing up for patients over politics. Integrity matters. My daughter was treated at Westside last year. This is why we trust them. They always put patients first. Hospital manager risks job to enforce fair treatment policy. This is what leadership looks like. The posts went on, hundreds of them, mostly supportive. Some were from former patients, others from healthcare workers across the country. A few criticized Jordan's actions, but they were in the minority. It's not just Twitter, Nurse Lopez added. It's on Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. Local news stations are calling the front desk asking for statements. The board members looked at each other in stunned silence. People are saying they want to support hospitals that maintain political neutrality in patient care, Nurse Lopez continued. We've received over 50 messages of support just in the past hour. Linda was frantically typing on her tablet, presumably updating Elon on this unexpected development. Chester cleared his throat. Ms. Chen, perhaps you could convey to Mr. Musk that this situation is evolving. Linda looked up, her composure slightly rattled. I'll need to consult with him before we proceed further. Of course, Chester said. In the meantime, perhaps we should postpone any decisions about personnel changes until we've had time to assess the full impact of today's events. Jordan could hardly believe what was happening. What he'd thought would be his professional execution was turning into something very different. Linda stood abruptly. I need to make some calls. We'll reconvene when I have further instructions from Mr. Musk. After she left, the boardroom erupted in conversation. Jordan slipped out quietly, followed by Nurse Lopez. How did this happen? He asked her once they were in the hallway. How did the story get out so fast? She smiled. Dr. Reynolds might have mentioned it to a friend who works at the Tribune, and I might have posted about it in my healthcare workers group. And the patient from the emergency room, the one who was upset about the hat, turns out she has a pretty popular blog. Jordan shook his head in amazement. You all did this for me? We did it for Westside, she corrected him. And for what's right. You've had our backs for 15 years. Did you think we wouldn't have yours? Before Jordan could respond, his phone buzzed with a text from Chester. Musk wants to meet, just you. Conference room A, 20 minutes. Jordan showed the message to Nurse Lopez, whose eyes widened. What are you going to do? She asked. Jordan took a deep breath. The only thing I can do. Go meet the boss and see if I still have a job. As he walked toward conference room A, Jordan tried to prepare himself for whatever might come next. He had stood up for what he believed in, and regardless of the outcome, he could hold his head high. Whether this was the end of his time at Westside or the beginning of something new remained to be seen. Either way, he wouldn't change what he'd done. Sometimes principles had to come before paychecks, even when the stakes were this high. Jordan stood outside conference room A, straightening his tie and taking deep breaths. Through the small window in the door, he could see Elon Musk sitting alone at the table, no longer wearing the red hat or sunglasses. Without those items, he looked more like the person Jordan had seen in countless news articles and videos. The tech visionary who had revolutionized electric cars, space travel, and now apparently wanted to shake up healthcare. With one final deep breath, Jordan knocked and entered. Elon looked up from his phone. Mr. Mills, thank you for joining me. Mr. Musk. Jordan nodded, remaining standing until Elon gestured to a chair across from him. Please sit. And call me Elon. Jordan sat down, his back straight, hands folded on the table. He wouldn't be the first to speak. Let the billionaire make the first move. Elon studied him for a moment, his expression unreadable. You've caused quite a stir today. That wasn't my intention, Jordan replied evenly. Intentions rarely matter as much as outcomes, Elon said, setting his phone down. The outcome is that Westside Medical Center is trending on social media. Local news outlets are calling for statements, and I have a PR situation on my hands before we've even announced the acquisition publicly. Jordan nodded but remained silent. If this was leading to his firing, so be it. Linda thinks I should replace you immediately, Elon continued. She says your actions showed poor judgment and disrespect to the new ownership. And what do you think? Jordan asked, meeting Elon's gaze directly. A hint of a smile appeared on Elon's face. I think Linda doesn't always understand what I value in leadership. That wasn't the response Jordan had expected. He waited for Elon to continue. Tell me something, Mr. Mills. Why did you really ask me to leave? Was it about the hat or was it about something else? Jordan considered his answer carefully. It was about upholding the standards we've set at this hospital. Every day we ask our staff to prioritize patient comfort and care above all else. If I had made an exception for you, because of who you are or how much power you have, what message would that send to everyone who works here? Elon nodded slowly. So it was about integrity. Yes, Jordan said simply. Even at the cost of your career? Some things are worth that cost. Elon leaned back in his chair, looking thoughtful. You know, when I bought this hospital, my team provided detailed reports on the facility, the financials, the staff. Your name came up repeatedly. Oh, Jordan hadn't expected that. 15 years as manager. Started as an administrative assistant, known for remembering every staff member's name. Fought to keep the community clinic open when the board wanted to close it for budget reasons. Implemented the hospital's first comprehensive patient comfort standards. Elon recited these facts as if reading from a mental file. By all accounts, you're the heart of this place. Jordan felt a surge of emotion at hearing his work summarized so succinctly by someone who had only learned of his existence recently. I care about Westside, he said simply, and the people here, both staff and patients. That's become quite clear, Elon said. What's also clear is that you weren't intimidated by me or my position. Should I have been? Elon actually chuckled at that. Most people are. It's refreshing when someone isn't. He leaned forward. Let me tell you why I bought this hospital, Mr. Mills. It wasn't for the profit potential, though I do intend to make it financially sustainable. I bought it because I believe healthcare needs disruption, and I wanted a test facility to try new approaches. What kind of disruption? Jordan asked cautiously. Streamlined operations, cutting-edge technology, reimagined patient experience. But, Elon held up a finger. What I've learned over the years is that disruption without understanding existing systems usually fails. You need at least some people who know how things work now and why they work that way. Jordan began to see where this might be heading. And you think I'm one of those people? I know you are, Elon replied. The question is whether you're willing to be part of the change rather than an obstacle to it. That depends on the change, Jordan said honestly. If it means compromising patient care or the culture we've built here, it doesn't, Elon interrupted. In fact, that culture of putting patients first is precisely what interests me. Too many hospitals talk about patient-centered care but practice finance-centered care. You actually mean it. Jordan felt some of the tension leave his body. Maybe he wasn't about to be fired after all. So what happens now? He asked. Elon picked up his phone and swiped through something.
Well, according to Twitter, you're a healthcare hero standing up to corporate interests.
According to my PR team, firing you would be a disaster. And according to my own judgment, you're exactly the kind of principled leader I want working with me, not against me. He turned the phone around to show Jordan the screen. It displayed a drafted press release announcing Elon Musk's acquisition of Westside Medical Center, with Jordan Mills continuing as hospital manager and taking on an additional role as director of patient experience for a new healthcare innovation initiative. Jordan read it twice, not quite believing what he was seeing. This is not what I expected when I walked in here. Life rarely gives us what we expect, Elon said with a slight smile. I came to this hospital wearing that hat partly as a test. I wanted to see how the staff would react, if they would bend their principles because of who I am. You didn't. That's valuable information. You were testing us? Jordan asked, a hint of annoyance in his voice. I test everything, Elon said unapologetically. It's how I learn. And I learned something important about Westside today. Before Jordan could respond, a commotion erupted outside the conference room. They both turned to see a group of staff members gathering in the hallway, led by Dr. Reynolds and Nurse Lopez. Through the window, Jordan could see worried faces looking in. I think your troops are concerned about you, Elon observed. They're good people, Jordan said. They care. Another valuable data point, Elon murmured. Then to Jordan's surprise, he stood and walked to the door. Opening it wide, the staff members outside fell silent, staring at the billionaire with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Good afternoon, Elon said casually. I believe you're wondering about Mr. Mills's future at Westside. Dr. Reynolds stepped forward. We are. He's the best administrator this hospital has ever had. Murmurs of agreement came from the gathered staff. I'm inclined to agree, Elon said, glancing back at Jordan, which is why he'll be continuing as hospital manager, with an expanded role in our new healthcare initiative. The relief in the hallway was palpable. Smiles broke out, and Jordan saw a few people actually high-five each other. However, Elon continued, raising his voice slightly, I do want to address the policy that led to our disagreement earlier. The hallway quieted again, tension returning to some faces. After discussing it with Mr. Mills, I believe the policy of maintaining a politically neutral environment in patient care areas is sound. Patients deserve to focus on healing without distraction or discomfort. I won't be challenging that policy. Jordan couldn't hide his surprise. He'd expected Elon to use his ownership position to override the policy. That said, Elon continued, I believe we can find ways to respect both personal expression and patient comfort through thoughtful compromise, Mr. Mills, and I will be working together to refine these policies going forward. He turned back to Jordan. If that's agreeable to you. Jordan stood and joined Elon at the door. It is. Thank you. The impromptu audience in the hallway broke into applause, startling both men. Should we tell them the rest of the news? Elon asked quietly. Jordan looked at the faces of the people he'd worked with for so many years. The nurses, doctors, technicians, and support staff who made Westside what it was. They deserved to know what was coming. Everyone, he called out, waiting for the applause to die down. Mr. Musk has some exciting news about the future of Westside that you should all hear. Elon stepped forward. As you may have guessed, I've acquired this hospital. But this isn't just a business transaction. Westside is going to become the centerpiece of a new healthcare initiative. One that combines cutting-edge technology with the human-centered care you already provide. He outlined his vision. Briefly, new equipment, streamlined processes, innovative treatment options, all while maintaining the community focus that made Westside special. We'll be announcing this publicly tomorrow, he concluded, but I wanted you, the heart of this hospital, to hear it first. More applause followed, along with excited chatter. As the crowd began to disperse, Elon turned back to Jordan. "Quite a day, Mr. Mills," he said. "Not at all what either of us expected when we woke up this morning." Jordan shook his head in amazement. "No, it certainly wasn't. I still think that policy needs refining," Elon added. "Maybe not all political expression is created equal, and I still think patients deserve a neutral healing environment," Jordan countered. "But I'm willing to discuss finding the right balance." Elon smiled. "Good. Disagreement is where innovation happens. Just one thing, though. Yes? Next time you throw me out of my own hospital," Elon said with a hint of humor in his voice, "maybe do it somewhere less public." Jordan couldn't help but laugh. Deal. As they walked together toward Jordan's office to discuss details, he reflected on the strange turn of events. He'd started the day expecting to give a routine tour and ended it with a new role. A new boss and a completely new future for Westside. Life rarely gives us what we expect. Indeed. 3 months had passed since the day Jordan had asked Elon Musk to leave Westside Medical Center over a red hat. What had seemed like career suicide at the time had instead become a turning point for both Jordan and the hospital. As he walked through the newly renovated East Wing, he marveled at how much had changed in such a short time. "Morning, Mr. Mills," called one of the nurses as he passed the station. "Big day today, huh?" Jordan smiled and nodded. "The biggest." "Is everything ready for the ceremony?" "All set. The press started arriving about 20 minutes ago. Dr. Reynolds is keeping them entertained in the conference room." "Perfect. And our special patients?" "The first group is already here in the new waiting area. They look pretty excited." Jordan thanked her and continued his morning rounds. Today was the official unveiling of the Westside Community Care Initiative, Elon's promised healthcare innovation project, now a reality. The local media was treating it as a major event, and even some national outlets had sent reporters. When he reached the main lobby, Jordan paused to take it all in. The space had been completely transformed, brighter, more open, with comfortable seating areas and digital screens showing wait times and helpful information. But what hadn't changed was the feeling of the place. Despite all the new technology, Westside still felt like a community hospital, not a cold corporate facility. That balance had been Jordan's primary focus over the past 3 months. For every cutting-edge innovation Elon's team proposed, Jordan made sure the human element wasn't lost. They had gone toe-to-toe several times, particularly over staff reductions that Elon's efficiency experts had recommended. "Technology should support our caregivers, not replace them," Jordan had argued during one particularly heated meeting. "Patients need human contact, especially when they're scared and vulnerable." To his credit, Elon had listened. The final staffing plan actually increased the number of direct care providers while using technology to reduce administrative burdens. "There you are." Diane from HR appeared at his side, clipboard in hand. "Elon's jet just landed. He'll be here in about 20 minutes. "Any last-minute changes to the schedule?" Jordan asked. "Just one. He wants you to join him on stage for the ribbon cutting, not just introduce him." Jordan nodded. That was typical Elon, making changes on the fly. Over the past months, he'd learned to roll with these adjustments. Finding that flexibility in the small things gave him more credibility when standing firm on the big ones. "I better finish my rounds quickly then," he said. "Is Chester handling the board members?" "They're all in the boardroom, being served breakfast. Chester's keeping them happy. And the community clinic patients, all taken care of. The transportation we arranged brought everyone who confirmed." Jordan smiled gratefully. "What would I do without you?" "Crash and burn," Diane replied with a grin. "Now go finish your rounds. I'll text you when Elon arrives." As Jordan continued through the hospital, he greeted staff members by name, checked in on a few long-term patients, and made mental notes of small issues to address later. This morning routine had been his practice for years, but it felt especially important today when so many eyes would be on Westside. When he reached the pediatric ward, his last stop, he found Nurse Lopez organizing a group of children who would be part of the ceremony. "How are our stars doing?" he asked. "Excited and a little nervous," she replied, "especially since they found out who's coming." A young girl in a wheelchair piped up. "Is it true that Elon Musk builds rockets? Do you think he'd sign my cast?" Jordan knelt down to her level. "He does build rockets, and I bet he'd be happy to sign your cast if you ask him nicely." The girl beamed. "Cool, Mr. Mills," Nurse Lopez said quietly, pulling him aside. There's something you should know. Some of the parents were asking about political stuff. They saw the news stories about what happened before. Jordan sighed. Despite their best efforts to focus press coverage on the healthcare innovations, the MAGA hat incident, as the media had dubbed it, kept resurfacing in stories about West Side. Some outlets framed it as a David versus Goliath tale, others as an example of cancel culture. The truth, as usual, was more nuanced than any headline could capture. "What did you tell them?" he asked. "I said today isn't about politics, it's about better healthcare for their kids." Jordan nodded approvingly. Perfect answer. His phone buzzed with a text from Diane. "He's here. Main entrance now. Duty calls," he told Nurse Lopez. "See you at the ceremony." When Jordan reached the main entrance, Elon was already inside, surrounded by his team, hospital board members and a few key staff. The billionaire looked more formal than usual in a dark suit, though he'd skipped the tie. No hat of any kind today, Jordan noted with relief. "Jordan," Elon called out when he spotted him. "Come see this." As Jordan approached, Elon pulled out his phone and showed him a social media post. It was a before and after photo of West Side's emergency department, with a caption praising the improvements. "It's already getting attention," Elon said. "People are impressed by what we've accomplished." "What we've accomplished together," Jordan corrected gently. Elon smiled. "Yes, exactly. Which reminds me, did Diane tell you about the change to the ceremony? That you want me on stage for the ribbon cutting?" "Yes, not just that," Elon said. "I want you to give part of the speech. The part about our vision for community care. You explain it better than I do, more heart, less tech talk." Jordan hadn't prepared for this. "I don't have anything written." "You don't need it," Elon said confidently. "Just talk about what we've built here and why it matters. 3 minutes tops." Before Jordan could protest further, Chester approached to tell them the press was seated and they were ready to begin. As they walked toward the new community care wing where the ceremony would take place, Jordan felt a familiar mix of pride and anxiety. This project had consumed his life for the past 3 months, with 18-hour days and countless challenging conversations. Seeing it come to fruition was deeply satisfying, even with the last-minute speech addition. The new wing was packed with people, reporters, staff members, board members, and most importantly, community members who would benefit from the expanded services. A temporary stage had been set up at one end, with a large red ribbon stretched across the entrance to the new facilities. As Jordan and Elon took their places on the stage, a hush fell over the crowd. Chester made a brief introduction, highlighting the hospital's history and the significance of the new initiative. Then Elon stepped to the microphone. 3 months ago, I came to Westside Medical Center looking for a place to test new ideas in healthcare, he began. What I found was a community of dedicated professionals who taught me something important. Innovation without compassion is just technology. True healthcare transformation needs both. He spoke for about 10 minutes, outlining the technical improvements they'd made, from AI-assisted diagnostics to streamlined electronic records, and the impact these would have on patient care. Then he gestured to Jordan. "But the heart of this initiative isn't the technology, it's the people, and no one understands that better than the man who once kicked me out of this hospital for the sake of his patients." This drew surprised laughter from those who knew the story. Jordan Mills has been the conscience of this project, ensuring that every innovation serves the human needs of this community. I'll let him tell you about what that looks like in practice. Jordan stepped to the microphone, momentarily overwhelmed by the situation. 3 months ago, he'd thought his career might be over. Now he was sharing a stage with one of the world's most famous innovators, introducing a project that could transform healthcare delivery. "When I first came to Westside 15 years ago," he began, finding his voice, "I learned something important from a patient, an elderly woman who had no family nearby. She told me that what scared her most about being in the hospital wasn't her illness. It was feeling alone and forgotten." The crowd grew quiet, listening intently. That conversation shaped how I've approached hospital management ever since. Technology and efficiency matter, but they must serve a deeper purpose, making people feel cared for when they're at their most vulnerable. Jordan went on to explain the community-focused elements of the new initiative: expanded hours for working families, transportation services for elderly and disabled patients, integrated social services, and culturally sensitive care programs. As he spoke, He could see heads nodding in the audience. This new wing isn't just about state-of-the-art equipment or faster service, he concluded. It's about creating a place where everyone in our community can receive care that respects their dignity and meets their unique needs. That's the true innovation we're celebrating today. The applause was immediate and heartfelt. As Jordan stepped back, Elon gave him an approving nod before returning to the microphone for his closing remarks. That's exactly why I wanted Jordan to speak today, Elon said, because he reminds us that the purpose of innovation is to serve human needs, not the other way around. He gestured to the ribbon. Now let's officially open this new chapter for Westside Medical Center. Together, they cut the ribbon while cameras flashed. As the crowd applauded, Jordan caught sight of Nurse Lopez and the children from the pediatric ward, who had been brought in for the ceremony. They were cheering loudly, the little girl in the wheelchair waving enthusiastically. After the ceremony, as Elon was surrounded by reporters, Jordan slipped away to check on the pediatric patients. He found the girl in the wheelchair proudly showing off her cast now, bearing Elon's signature, alongside a small drawing of a rocket. He said I should visit SpaceX when my leg heals, she told Jordan excitedly. And he didn't even mind when my dad asked him about the hat thing. Jordan raised an eyebrow. Your dad asked about that? She nodded. Dad said you stood up for what's right, even though it was hard. Mr. Musk said that's why he kept you around, because people who stand up for what they believe make better teammates than people who just agree with everything. From the mouth of babes, Jordan thought, smiling at the child's simplification of what had been the most stressful day of his professional life. Later, as the event wound down, Jordan found himself alone with Elon for a moment. Quite a change from our first meeting, Elon commented. Quite a change, Jordan agreed. Though I notice you left the hat at home this time. Elon laughed. Some experiments only need to be run once. Besides, he added more seriously, you were right about one thing. There's a time and place for personal expression, and some spaces should remain neutral. And you were right that innovation requires flexibility and fresh thinking, Jordan acknowledged. Elon extended his hand. Here's to finding the right balance and to what we can accomplish in the next 3 months. As they shook hands, Jordan reflected on how an incident that had seemed disastrous had led to positive change for Westside and its patients. Sometimes standing up for what you believe in leads to unexpected places, even if it means asking one of the world's richest men to take off his hat or leave.